Well, hello there. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Live. Yes, we are live. Let me see if Facebook notifies me that my husband has tagged me.
I'm starting to get a little excited about these
lives?
These lives.
Well, you know what,
Thursday
baby?
night.
Like,
ran home and changed clothes like I had a hot date to go on.
So you do have a hot date with your wife and all the people on Facebook and Instagram land. But what I will say, what I appreciate, it's Thursday, so we've had a very long week, both of us. And Tracy has very long days because, as we said before, he's building our home. And we went live on Tuesday and did a great live with Cheyenne Bostock. So you can go into our videos and you can listen to that conversation. And I actually was going to say, hey, we don't have to go live tonight. But my husband's like, so what's the subject? What are we doing? And I really, really appreciate that because as we, you have to be consistent. We say we're going to be here. We have to show up. But I was actually going to give him a pass because a lot's going on in the Phax world. So thank you for being here. For those of you who are new to us, my name is Cherie Phax. This is my husband, Tracy. Tracy and I met online during the pandemic, and we dated online through Zoom and all other technology before we actually met each other in person. We met each other for a fabulous first date on May 22nd, 2020. On New Year's Eve, my husband asked me to marry him, and we got married a year later. So many women ask me, how did I find my husband, or how did my husband find me? Because really, men pursue. And the reality is a lot of things. I had a bomb profile. So for those of you who need help with your profile, definitely go to www.justthefacts. I do profile audits. I can spend time and talk with you about how to make sure that your profile stands out amongst the crowd. But the reality is, for the most part, after that profile snags them in, what are you having a conversation about? And that's where the real work does. So I have a 9-week coaching program that I would love to talk to you about. So again, go to www.justthefacts, tag chat, let's chat. We've got a 15-minute call to see if we're a fit and see if we'd like to work together. So that is our story, and we are sticking to it. We definitely support Black love. We're both mature individuals. So for all those naysayers out there that say women can't find love over 40, absolutely not. For those that say Black men don't provide, they don't protect, they are not masculine men, absolutely not. My husband provides and protects. And we just want to make sure that we're supporting Black love and creating a platform where you can come into our space. I created a really, really comprehensive program that can help you find your kind of love.
And for the brothers, it's not over yet for the brothers too.
That's right.
It's not the lesson at 59. Hey, it's not over for the brothers yet either.
So tonight's topic is around communication. Last week during our live that was titled 3 Things That Inspired My Husband to Marry Me, we talked about those 3 things. And Tracy mentioned communication, my vulnerability, and the fact that I bring peace. And so many women were asking about how we have good communication, especially us executive women. Us executive women, we come in the door talking about, I got my degree from Yale and my master's from Harvard, and I'm an executive. And we basically create a space that says, no man, I don't want no man, or I don't need no man. So how do we break down those barriers to make sure that if we want love and if we desire good partnership, that we're creating the space to receive it? So we're going to talk tonight about communication. Thoughts, David?
Well, communication, like we said the other day, Tuesday, communication is big. It means so much. So as someone who hasn't always communicated how I felt and my feelings to my significant other, being in a space now where I can do that and communicate and have her communicate to me is very important. I think when I go back to when we first started dating, baby, when you asked me what was my love language, and then you told me what was your love.
And he was all excited about it.
Absolutely, because dated 5-6 women prior to marrying my wife here, and never was asked that. So, communication, letting me know what she's like, what's her love language, was very, very important, and I knew how to govern myself accordingly.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, let's go over what are some of the mistakes that I made in relationships before. So I want to make sure that I didn't miss them. So I put them on board. One, not being accountable. If someone had an issue with me, I was defensive. I was listening to respond versus listening to hear. I would have my response and my debate or my justification of whatever the actions were. And so I was rarely accountable. It was very difficult for me to apologize. Just sometimes people want sincere apology, and sometimes that's all that will resolve the issue. I knew it all. Because, of course, I got good education, right? And at work, I'm a boss. So I knew it all. And I just came across my tone was very much like work. And not anything that made a man feel safe. Nothing that made a man feel drawn in to have a conversation with me. I did not really understand what I wanted in a relationship, so it was very difficult for me to communicate what my needs were. So I had expectations, but really hadn't communicated what my needs were. I hadn't done a lot of work on understanding my core values, and so in my master's program, I did a lot of work around understanding my leadership style, which required that I understand my core values. So I got really clear on that and could communicate those better, but in the beginning, I could not. So you can't tell somebody how to treat you if you don't know really how you want to be treated. And you can't really think about building with someone if you don't really know what your values are and if you align with each other. So I was out of alignment with a lot of the men that I was dating because I just was not really in alignment with myself, to be honest with you. Another one was thinking that a man was a mind reader. He should know that I'm mad, or he should know that I want this, or he should know that I want that, versus just communicating that to him. So many of those things, my tone, not really understanding, like Tracy is a touch person. So when I need to talk to him, I need to touch him. I need to stroke him. I need to touch him because that will really excite what is inside of him, and it inspires him when I touch him. And just my tone, like leaning in, not talking to a man like he's my colleague, and talking to a man like he's my lover. And so that's a whole different way of communicating with a person. And that's something that I really, really had to learn. And did the work and learned it. What are mistakes, baby, that women tend to make when they're communicating with you? What has shut you down, and what have other men, when you guys are having conversations, talked about women and how they communicate with men?
I think sometimes even when we talk about communication, sometimes you can ask a question about, where someone's been. That tone of where you've been could come out in two different ways. It can come out like, hey baby, where you been? How was your day? Or that other tone could be, where you been? Different language, different tones, different responses. But I want to go back to, baby, one of the things you said earlier about creating that space, because I think it's very important. Creating that space for men to be honest and to be vulnerable and to be upfront creates that space for that person to do that, lets them know that they have a safe space to do that in. And you always have created that safe space for me to do that and to have those communications and to let you know how I feel and what's going on. So having that space for someone is so very, very important.
Yeah, and so early on in our relationship, Tracy shared with me past experiences that he had talked about, things that trigger him in communication, whether it's being accusatory or shutting him down and not letting him communicate. So sometimes women, we tend to use those things against men. Oh, that's why she's using you, because you must have been blah, 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 versus, using that information to help you navigate how to nestle into his heart. So because of that, I never accuse Tracy of anything. He doesn't give me any reason to anyway. But there's a whole different way that I approach the conversation. I don't use, you always do this. Hey, when you said that thing the other day, it just made me feel like you didn't really appreciate me. Or it didn't feel like you valued, the time that I spent on doing X, Y, or Z. I give you a real-time example. Last Friday, end of another week, another busy week. Again, Tracy's up at 4:30 in the morning, and we don't get in until 6 in the evening. And, he does entrepreneurship training on Tuesdays. He does this on Thursdays. So we're at it. We're really at it. And we had some new people move into some of our properties, and they had programs. And I didn't have all the details because I'm in the office, but I'm working, and his assistant comes in a couple days a week. So she's just processing everything. And out of the clear blue, we were getting ready to go to Philly to listen to music and whatnot. And out of the clear blue, he was like, "Did the tenants pay their deposits?" And so I was like, huh? Did the tenants pay their deposits? And I was like, okay, so he's thinking about money and, just things that are on his mind because he's got so many things going on. So I could have been like, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't handling it. Your sister had, whatever. Mm-hmm. No, I said, babe, I don't know. Let me check and see if I can find the email. Let me call your assistant really, really quickly. And then let me just say this, administrative skills are not my zone of genius. That is not what I do. So maybe moving forward, we can figure out how to make sure that I'm aware of everything so everything gets documented the way that we need it to go. So we, on every Sunday, we have a time where we sit down and we talk to each other about issues that have happened during the week. So in my mind, I thought, we'll just talk about it on Sunday because I'm feeling some kind of way. I'm feeling like, hey, you're not appreciating me sitting in that office, so all the things. But I didn't want to ruin us going out that evening. It could wait. It wasn't gonna, we're not killing nobody, so it could wait. So finding the appropriate time to have
we went to Philly and had a good time.
We sure did. We did. We went to Philly and had a great time. So sit down on Sunday, and what happened, baby?
We had that conversation.
But what did you do?
I apologized before we even started.
We sat down, and he just apologized before we even started.
Absolutely, because I knew how I was. I knew exactly how I was that day. So yes. Mm-hmm.
So it broke down all of the things that could have turned into a big thing. Then we didn't go to Philly, or we went and was mad and me mugging each other all night. It could have been a whole different experience.
Bad energy.
Could have been a whole different experience. But like Ruth Bader Ginsburg says, sometimes when men say things, you have to act deaf. Like you didn't hear them. Because everything doesn't have to be a battle. We don't have to win every battle. The goal is to win the war of your relationship. Prospering, being positive, being healthy, you engaging with each other in a way that inspires us. Mm-hmm. So women, a lot of times we're talking to, and I say this all the time, we're talking to the men's heads. Mm-hmm. We have to talk down in here in their hearts, because that's the thing that gets them to provide and protect for us. That's the thing that creates that safe space for us. That's the thing that makes a man get up at 4:30 in the morning and go out and build you a home, and then come home and come and sit on and talk live with people we don't even know, so that he can help you accomplish your dreams and the things that you want to do in your space. So hopefully this is helpful. And the other piece is speaking at appropriate times, using the appropriate tone, not doing the thing, not using trigger words, not using anything that they've said against them before. So all those things are things that in my program we practice. It's so important how we use our words. Like I titled this, words can create war and peace.
Yes.
And that's just reality. And that happens even in relationship. Mm-hmm. So, let me see if anybody has any questions.
Well, we don't want number of peace at mine.
That is so true. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. And we did have a question from last time. So Tracy answered the question why he chose me. Someone asked me, of all the people that I dated, why I chose Tracy. We were aligned. We had very similar values. We had very different backgrounds, but very similar values. Mm-hmm. And from the beginning, Tracy treated me like a queen. Just from every aspect of the way in which we engaged with each other, the way in which he followed up. He called when he said he was going to call. He planned things when he said he was going to plan things. He did a lot of the little things. And then Tracy immediately or early on started talking about longevity. What do you want in the future? What are you looking for? Do you see yourself being married? Even though he didn't even want to get married, surprisingly. But he wanted to be clear and wanted to understand and know like what I was thinking. And so those things helped me understand that he was serious. He was consistent with his word. He was consistent with his actions. I moved him along in the way that I wanted, and he completely complied and acquiesced and just really did all the things in word initially, but then in deed, in action. When we would go out, he professed me early on. Tracy was calling me his fiance before he had asked me to marry him. He just made a lot of investment in us. And he spoke to me, he spoke early on about us in future tense, how we were going to be together and things like that, he was gonna build me a house, how, he wanted me to move to Trenton, just things like that. So all those little things, and some of it was just my intuition. And that's in my program. I talk about how we tap into ourselves. Everything we need to know is right here where we are. We just have to trust it. And our intuition is strong. And I almost knew from the beginning that was going to be my husband. But I made sure that I strategized and I navigated it properly so that we could get to the finish line. Because I hadn't got to the finish line before. So I was just very, very, very intentional in how I navigated my dating experience. And I can show you how to do that. So if this has been helpful, and if you think we might be a fit, if you like my energy, I would love to talk to you about my program. So call me, or not call me, don't call me yet. You can after this, but www.justthephax.com. So again, ladies, those main things: knowing yourself, being able to communicate what your wants, needs, desires are. Being able to communicate your boundaries in a soft, gentle, feminine way. There's so many ways we can say things. It's not what we say, it's how we say it. So communicating your boundaries, and then making sure you understand your values and being able to articulate those, and just being confident in the way in which you present. Confidence is so sexy for both a man and a woman, but it's that feminine confidence that's going to hook them in and snatch their hearts out. So that's it for tonight, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah.